Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya.
Iti shushrumadhiranam.
Iti shushuma dhirana.
Yenastad vichachakshire.
Yenastad vichachakshare.
Narendra.
Okay. Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Anyadevahur vidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya.
Iti shushuma dhirana.
Iti shushrumadhiranam.
Yenastad vichachakshare.
Yenastad vichachakshire. Like to read the translation?
Yes, the wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of Misa.
Okay. So this week we look at number 11.
11. Yeah.
Yeah.
One should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own.
So this is relating to Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 8 to 12, as we have said before, and particularly the quality of ahankara. This is the same as that.
Associating oneself with the body. Okay.
Yeah, ahankara. So what we talk about is in the Vedas is getting free from false ego. Deepa's joined us. Welcome.
Hare Krishna.
We've just begun. Hare Krishna. How are you? And everyone, the family?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so we're just talking about the next point, number 11, false ego. So when it talks about getting free from false ego, we should not misunderstand, because a lot of people that look at the Vedas, they talk about getting rid of your ego. But we don't want to, and that's Mayavadi understanding, to annihilate the ego. We don't say get free from ego. We say, which means your identity, yourself, your identity. But what we're talking about is getting free from the false ego. So it's not free from ego. It's not like now we have an ego, an identity, and then when we become transcendental, then there's no more ego. Then we become one with everything or nothing. So the Buddhists or Voidists, they talk about becoming nothing. That's free from ego. And then the Mayavadis or impersonalists talk about becoming one with everything, which is no ego. So both of them are basically the same, whether you say that we're going to become nothing, zero, or we're going to become one, is the same thing. No variety means no variety at all. So that's not the true Vedic conception. So we're not trying to annihilate the ego, but what we're trying to do is get rid of the false. So the important thing to underline is the false bit. We want to remove the false aspect of ourself. So what is the false aspect of ourself? What is false about our
we are a body.
Our identification? What part of our identification is false? Our identity.
It's the body, isn't it? I mean, we are
Yeah. In one sense, the body itself is also not false, because the body itself is matter, and matter, where does matter come from?
It's coming from Krishna. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 7th chapter, text 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says earth, water, fire, air, and ether, which is space. And then he says mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are my energies. So interestingly, and he also puts ahankaras in there. That false ego is also an energy of Krishna. So the body itself is not false, but what's false is where the soul, which is another energy, that's chapter 7, text 5, the following verse says, apart from these inferior energies, there is a superior energy, the jiva bhuta, the soul. So what matter is not false because it comes from Krishna, and the spirit is not false, it comes from Krishna. But what's false is when the spirit thinks that the spirit thinking is matter. That's not true. That's matter is true because it comes from Krishna. It's temporary though. See, that's the difference. See, matter is temporarily sometimes manifested, sometimes not manifested, but so it's temporary, and the soul is eternal. So but they're both energies of Krishna. But when that eternal superior energy, conscious, and we're also conscious, and matter is not conscious. So when that eternal conscious energy falsely identifies itself with a temporary unconscious miserable energy, that's false. So that's what we want to get free from, and that's real knowledge. To know that, like Prabhupada always started off his philosophy with, you're not the body, you are a spirit soul. So immediately that's the foundation of the knowledge that he would give to the public. Start them off with that fact that we're not the body, that we are the soul. So getting out of the false ego into the real ego. So what we want is to establish the true ego, the real ego, that I am a spirit soul. If you say, so we're not getting rid of the I is still there, but the true I am a servant of Krishna, I am a spirit soul. We don't exactly know what our form is right now. I can't say, I am a gopi in the spiritual world. I am a gopa. I am an assistant to Mother Yashoda. I am a cow in the spiritual world. I'm a peacock. So that's called swarupa. That's our original form. So that much detail we don't know now. That you can't. Oh, let's look it up in the book. Okay, Narendra and Deepa in the spiritual world. One is a peacock, one is a cow. You can't find that anywhere. That's revealed to us by Krishna. So forget about that for now. What we want is that basic understanding that our true ego is that we're a servant of God, that we're a servant of Krishna, that we're an eternal soul, and the nature of the soul is to serve Krishna. That's our real happiness, our real pleasure. So that's very important. And there was one thing I was going to say, and it's slipped my mind. Oh, the real ego. What was I going to say? The real ego. Krishna, save me. That's our real ego, is we're helpless, that we're fully depending on Krishna for knowledge and everything like that. That's so important. Yeah. Krishna. Okay. Oh, yeah, I was going to say something about I. Oh, yeah, so we're not trying to get rid of the I, but yeah, so, I am a spirit soul. But what we want to get rid of is the wrong use of the I. Like, I am a New Zealander, I'm a Kiwi, isn't it? Or I'm white, I'm a European, a white European, or I'm a man. Or, and also, like Prabhupada's saying here, and not just this false thing about I am the body, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm young, I'm old, I'm black, I'm white, like that. But also he mentions, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own. So that's also false. Like I say, oh, this is my wife, my children, my house, my car, my money. So also the things that are, see, we falsely think that we are the body, and also another false thinking is that we think that we're the proprietor and the enjoyer of anything related to the body, right? So that is also another false idea, that we identify anything connected with this body as belonging to me, as mine. So that's also a misunderstanding, because it's all like we hear in the first verse of Upanishad, that Ishavashamidam Savam, that everything's God's property. It's not what's ours, nothing's mine. So this is real renunciation or detachment, which we call vairagya, is giving up this attachment to material things and thinking that they belong to me. See, real detachment, and it's not just thinking, oh, okay, this is not mine. It's not my house, not my car, not my family. I'm not going to have anything to do with it anymore. It's okay, let's all walk out of the house today. Well, it's raining outside here, but I don't really want to do that. Okay, it's not my house, so I'm going to leave the house. So it's not quite like that, but realizing, okay, that's not my house, but whose house is it? It's Krishna's house. So I can use that in Krishna's service, because it belongs to Krishna. It's not my wife, but as this, Jayanti is another servant of Krishna. She's a Lakshmi. She's a servant of Krishna, and Lakshmi should be used for Narayan. So in the service of Narayan. So let me assist her and help her in serving the Lord like that. Actually, Prabhupada said when you get to the devotees when they were getting married, that you should assist. You should assist your husband, assist your wife. You're assisting them in serving Krishna. That these children, that we see that Krishna has sent these souls for us to educate and train up into Krishna consciousness. So it's not that we're not going to deal with these things, but it just changes the way that we deal with these things. Okay, I'm not the body, but that doesn't mean I don't care for it or anything. I'm not going to give food to it anymore. I'm not going to sleep or put clothes on or whatever. No, but it's Krishna's body. I'm the soul, and the soul is temporarily in this body, and it's meant to be used in Krishna's service, like everything else, like the house and the car and so forth. So just like you put fuel in your car and everything like that. So you keep the body healthy, put the right food and exercise and everything like that. It's a machine, made by Krishna. So, and we're using it in Krishna's service, and the best use of this human body is for spiritual realization. Particularly this human body is especially meant for spiritual realization. Why is that? How do we know that? Why this body is especially designed for spiritual realization?
It's because we have the consciousness. I mean, because we won't have consciousness, right? To
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a soul-searching class. I mean, do we see any monkeys or cats or pigs or dogs attending the class? No, they don't have any interest. Unfortunately, not many human beings do as well. There's not 6 billion people attending the soul-searching class, only 2 or 3, and that's a misuse. That's a misuse of the human body. So, and this is because they're obviously the most human beings are in this false ego. So because the human being gets trapped in the false ego, then and we've forgotten our true ego, that we've fallen down from our position as Krishna's servants. So we have to get back to that. We have to get back to that, service of Krishna. So I need to, approach a teacher and find out, like that about Krishna's service again. So, but that true purpose of human life is forgotten. Like in Vedanta Sutra, the essence of the Vedas is known as Vedanta Sutra. What does Vedanta Sutra say? Atato Brahma Jijnasa. You know, that you have got this human form of life, therefore you should be inquisitive about spiritual things, spiritual inquiry. Atata means therefore. It means there's a previous thing has already been concluded. What's the previous conclusion before that statement? The previous one is that you have a human body. You have a human body. That's why you're reading the Vedas means you have a human body. No one else is reading the Vedas, right? Like I said, dogs, pigs, cows don't read Vedas. So you're in a human body. You're able to read the Vedas, understand the Vedas, hear from the Vedas. Therefore, you should Brahma Jijnasa. Brahma means spiritual. Jijnasa means be inquisitive. You should inquire, ask questions. You should be inquisitive. Like there's one Upanishad, this is Sri Upanishad, there's another of the 108 called Kena. Kena Upanishad. Kena, K-E-N-A, Kena. What does Kena mean?
Kena.
It means why.
Kena, okay. Kena.
It means why.
Ah.
W-H-Y, question mark. Means like, who am I? Why am I here? Why are we suffering from COVID and viruses and so forth, governments and, you know, why are we suffering, you know? Where did we come from? Where do I go after death? What's the purpose of life? Like all these sort of why things. Human being is meant to ask why. Kana. You know, animals don't ask why. You know, when the cows and sheep are lined up in the slaughterhouse, they don't ask why am I in this line.
They may be cow talk.
What's that?
They may be asking in cow talk. They may be asking it. Why are they in that slaughter line? They might be. We just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we can see by their symptoms, by their behavior, that they don't make any effort to escape these things. I mean, when they get right up to the front of the line, then they may try to get out of it, but then it's too late, you know. Then it's too late. But they're just standing in line, you know. There may be hundreds standing in line. When they get right up to where the killing is happening, then they, you know, of course, self-preservation is there in all the species. You know, if a bird or an animal or whatever's life feels threatened, they'll try to save themselves. So that, like I said, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So all those four things are there in all the species. So, you know, the cows and sheep will try to defend themselves, but they don't. The point is they don't ask, why am I in this line? You know, of course, if someone attacks them, then they'll try to. Well, that's why they've got horns, right? The cow has horns to try to protect itself, but they don't. According to the Vedas, they're not questioning. You know, why am I in this body, and why? Like the cows we see outside, they're just standing out in the rain. And then they're not asking, you know, why am I just standing in this miserable rain and wind? And yeah.
I think it's like incorrect use of intelligence by the humans, because what they are doing is they are using their intelligence over the the higher consciousness to control the other animals, right? That's what they are doing. And the cows, they are, as you said, when the cow sees that the other cow is being killed, they are in fear basically, and trying to and make a movement so that they can run away or something. So that's kind of probably they are not thinking, they are just reacting. The intuition of fear, it's just seeing, that's their intuition basically. It's their reflex action to protect themselves, I guess. But I think it's because humans are basically pushing them towards, they are using the intelligence in a wrong way, taking them to controlling them for a wrong reason, killing them. That's misuse of intelligence or whatever you can.
I mean, it's a fact that maximum human beings are acting no different than the animals. It's very sad, very unfortunate. There's no spiritual inquiry, but actually the capacity is there. Like I never used to make spiritual inquiry for the first 20 years. And then when I met a devotee, then I began, so, but the potential is there, potential. I mean, of course, 99.9% are not using the potential, but still the potential is there. But with the non-human species, there's no potential, basically. There's no potential.
There is
But
another, there's
yeah.
another thing. I mean, this is why people are acting like this, like animals, because when they are born now, they are not given the right information, right knowledge. They are born in a world which is, if the parents are not correctly, they don't have correct information or knowledge, then what they're going to convey, pass it on to their kids or the society. If it's they're going in the wrong direction, then the things, and you're not learning the real thing what you're saying. I'm not just. I mean, so it's the whole system has gone wrong actually, and we that start with this education. This is the basic. That's
Abhay, you should publicize your classes, or such classes should be publicized that people become more aware, and then it may trigger some inquiry.
Definitely, definitely,
Yeah, that's. I mean,
but
that's.
unfortunately, people are still, their attention is all towards, viruses and vaccines and so many subjects. There's one verse in the second canto of Bhagavatam in the first chapter saying that there are thousands of subjects for hearing. Thousands. You can think about it, right? What do people hear about? We hear about money, and you hear about viruses, and you hear about food, and you hear about clothes, and you hear about traveling, and you saw thousands and thousands. But the verse is saying, so there's thousands of subject matters for hearing, but people are so absorbed in those thousands of different material subjects, but there's no interest in hearing about spiritual subjects. And that verse is saying, apashyatam atma tattvam. So apashyatam, pashyata means seeing. So pashyan means seeing. So apashyati means blind. And atma tattvam. The atma means the self, and tattva means the truth. So they're blind to the truth about the self, to that Brahma Jnana, to the Atma Tattva. Another way of saying Brahma Jnana is Atma Tattva. So the self-truth about the self. And they're blind to that. Why are they blind to that? Because they're absorbed in thousands of other things. They won't want to hear this, knowledge listed here, this list of things from humility, because they're more attracted to materialistic subjects. That is the thing, so, but somehow or other, the devotee's business is to rack our brains how to attract these people away from all this, complexities of sense gratification, to bring them towards the absolute truth. And it's not easy. I mean, it's said in Kali Yuga, it's as hard to make someone Krishna conscious in Kali Yuga as it is to give medicine to a horse. How many people does it take to give medicine to a horse, do you think?
I don't know.
I guess a few.
Yeah, it takes 6.
Oh,
6. Because one person has to hold each leg, 4 legs, right? One person has to hold each leg. One person has to hold the mouth open. You have to hold the mouth open, right, to get the medicine in. So the 5th person holds the mouth open, and the 6th person stuffs the medicine in the mouth. So, not very cooperative. So that's what it's like, so rebellious. But what we're seeing now is that due to this, suffering has gone up another few notches due to the world situation, that people are starting to think more about God, which is very good, I hear the word God from people's mouths a lot more than I did a year ago. And I hear people saying that, I'm very confused, which means that, they're coming to us and saying they're confused. So that means they're starting to open up and they're talking about God more and God save us, God help us. So that's a good thing, so we're hopeful that rather than being absorbed in thousands of other things, people are slowly going to come round to the one thing that's important to our relationship with the Supreme. So yeah, this is real knowledge, to know that we're not this body, that we're the soul, and also that the things around us that are connected with our body, they don't belong to us. That is called false proprietorship. So that's also often there'll be verses like in Bhagavad Gita and other places where these two concepts are mentioned right next to each other. The false proprietorship, getting free from that, that's called nirmama. Mama means mine. Nir means not mine. So not mine. Nirmama. And so the verse will say, like for example, the end of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Vihaya kamam yasavam pumam charity nispraha nirmama nirahankara sasantim arigachati. So it's saying there, nirmama, free from false proprietorship, and nirahankara, free from false ego. So these are very related concepts to get free from this conception that we're the body and understand our real conception. So I mean, it's not enough to understand you're not the body. Okay, that's good, but then what are you? So you need the positive understanding. So you're getting free from the negative thing. Okay, yeah, I'm not this material body. But then what are you? So that's also important knowledge to give. And in, like, for example, getting back to Buddhism and Mayavadi and things like that, they have this idea that we're not the body, but they don't have the replacement idea of what we are. There's no knowledge of that. So, that's why Prabhupada just didn't say you're not the body, and that's it. Okay, you're not the body. Okay, I'm not the body. But then he gave the actual thing that we are, which is that you are a spirit soul. You are a servant of Krishna. So that's given us the complete knowledge. We've mentioned, we were looking at that before in the Upanishad, that sort of half knowledge is dangerous. And that's what happens, you give people knowledge that you're not the body, but then they think that they're just a void or a space, or that they're God. That's dangerous. I mean, you say, okay, you're not the body, but then they start concocting that something else, that's also false. Like, for example, that they're God. Okay, I'm not the body, I'm God. But that's also false ego. Thinking that we're the body is false ego, but if you think you're God, that's the worst false ego, that you're really far away from the mark when you think you're God. And that's what happens with the Mayavadis, that they falsely conclude that they're not the body, that they are a spiritual being, and they are actually the everything. They are everything. They are God. So that's also false.
Yes, yesterday a friend sent me a video about the heart sutra. Yeah, heart sutra was what it was called. I didn't know what it was, so I just listened to it, and it was exactly this. It was a Buddhist Tibetan monk explaining about some sutra or some mantra that you repeat, and then you become like nothing, and then you kind of become one with something like this. So I thought, my God, this is what Abe has been talking about. Yeah.
So this is called mental speculation, or a fertile brain. So this is what happens when we don't hear from authority. Don't hear from authority. That's called a society of the blind leading the blind. The blind leading a blind, other blind people. If you're blind, obviously you can't work out where to go. But if you follow another blind person, if you hold on to them, then you're still in a terrible situation. And the real thing is, when you're blind, is to follow someone that can see, and that's called Tattvadarshi. Tattvadarshi, one that can see, or the seer of the truth, and that's mentioned chapter 4, text 34. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. So one that has seen the truth. So, and that's what we say. Om Gyana Timrandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. I was born the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the shining torch of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So they can open our eyes because their eyes are open, they can see. So because they can see, they can help us to see. If they're blind, what are you going to help someone to see, So this is very important. And like Narendra is saying, so many problems in society, this knowledge is what should be given from day one, by our parents, and then when we go to school, but it's not being given. So we're just born and thrown straight in front of the TV and watch all the propaganda that you need this food to be happy, these clothes to be happy, this partner to be happy, this house to be happy, this car to be happy, and then you'll be happy. And we find out after all that we're not happy, and then we jump off a skyscraper out of disappointment. So it's a crazy society. So people say Western culture, we say, oh, that would be nice. I mean, there's no culture. It would be nice to have some culture. What kind of culture is it? It's very demoniac culture. If we're cultivating very demoniac atheistic things. So, the Vedic culture, we're cultivating, transcendental knowledge. We're hearing ultimately from God, coming down through the Vedas and coming down through the Parampara, and we're getting fully enlightened and awakening out of this ignorance. Because this false ego is coming from avidya, from ignorance. It talks a lot about in these verses about avidya, about ignorance. Avidya. And other words, andha. Mantra 9, andham, tama, gross ignorance, darkness. So this false ego is coming out of this andham and tama, this darkness and ignorance, like that. So how are you going to deal with that? What's the opposite of darkness, opposite of ignorance?
Light.
It's light. It's knowledge. It's light. It's knowledge. So this knowledge will blast away the false ego. Will blast away all this false proprietorship, false ego, like that. And then we can be re-established in our true ego. And one interesting thing, okay, get rid of false proprietorship, but what's the real proprietorship? Does anything belong to us?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Except soul, I guess. I mean,
there is one thing. In the real ego, the pure soul thinks that Krishna is mine. How's that? Krishna is mine. That's the real proprietorship. That I am Krishna's. and Krishna is mine. That's love, isn't it? That's love. To think that I am Krishna's. I belong to Krishna, and Krishna belongs to me. Krishna is mine. And that's not wrong to think Krishna is mine. That means your love is developing, that we think Krishna is mine. Like Arjuna is thinking Krishna is my friend, and he's my dear friend, and Mother Yashoda is thinking Krishna is my child, and the gopis are thinking Krishna is my lover. So they're all thinking, Krishna's wives were thinking, Krishna is my husband. He's my husband. And that's not wrong. That's in our real ego, our real identity, that we have this loving relationship, and there's attachment there. There's real attachment and affection between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. And that's an eternal bond that can never be broken. And once that relationship is established, that relationship can never be broken. So it cannot that, oh, Krishna is mine and then Krishna is taken away from me. No, it can never be taken away. Whereas, okay, this is my house, but it's going to be taken away. This is my car and my phone and my family, but all these relationships are going to be broken. But if you think Krishna is mine and I am Krishna's, that's an eternal bond. And that bond can never be broken. So, and that's one of the fundamental flaws. You could think, well, what's the problem with thinking this is my house, my car, blah, blah, blah. What happens when that relationship's cut off? How are you going to feel?
It affects us.
Yeah, I mean, you become so attached to a temporary material object, and then when that relationship comes to an end, you're going to be in so much distress, so much suffering. So, attachment to material things, thinking that we're the proprietor of material things and becoming attached to those material things is a cause of so much suffering. So, that's why it's recommended to be detached. So, like I said, it doesn't mean we don't use anything, we don't interact with anything, but we just need to use everything in a detached way. We should not think anything is mine in this material world. The material, this New Zealand was here before I was born. New Zealand will be here after I die. So it's not, I'm here for a short time. It's not mine. And if I become attached to it, then apart from suffering when I'm forced to leave the body, I'm leaving New Zealand. Then also I might, because of that attachment there to New Zealand, for example, I may, the higher controllers that determine where we go in the next life, they may say, oh, well, a boy is so attached to New Zealand, we'll put him back in New Zealand, but maybe as a rat or a cockroach in New Zealand. Okay, so you're attached to New Zealand, come back to New Zealand, but maybe as a rat or a cockroach or something. So attachment to material things leads to further bondage. It leads to further bondage. There's one story, one man, he was very attached to his family, thinking this is my family. He loved his children and wife and everything, very attached, and he died in due course. And due to his attachment to his family, he took birth as a dog in that neighborhood. So he was like a stray dog in that neighborhood. And he was, what dogs do, they're always guarding property, right? The people and property. So he's thinking this in a dog's body. He was still thinking, I have to protect this family, this house, this family. So he was always around his previous family's house and protecting from any kind of intruders and everything like that. But the family is not knowing this was my previous husband, father, and so forth. They were throwing like sticks and stones and everything at the dog, and beating the dog, because especially in India, right? Dog, they beat the crap out of the dog and throw stuff at it and everything. The stray dogs, wild dogs, like that. So that was the result of his attachment, that he was getting beaten. So you see what is the difficulty with this false proprietorship and attachment to things. Anyone want to say anything about any of those things? All good. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Deepa, do you want to read that? It's number 12.
One should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face the miseries of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. The best course is to find what the means by which one may regain his spiritual identity.
Yeah. So this relates to, in the 13th chapter, text 8:12, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosa Nudarshanam. So Janma means birth, Janma Mrityu, death, Jara, old age, Vyadi, disease. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha, miserable. Dosha means fault. See, this is the fundamental fault with the material world, is that it's a miserable place. That is the main fault. See, and once again, we in ignorance and an illusion, we think that we can be happy in the material world. But Krishna repeatedly says, I mean, he created the material world. I mean, if anyone's going to know how the material world's set up and what effect it's going to have on us, the best person to know is Krishna, because he created it. And Krishna, the creator of the material world, says that it's a miserable place. And these are the four main miseries. There are more, but these are the four main ones: birth, death, old age, and disease in between. And this is the main fault with the material world, is that it's a miserable place. If we looked in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text number, I think it's text number 13, then it's, or it might be a little bit later, 15, text number 9, around that area. It says that Krishna says, Dukkalayam ashashvatam. Once again, dukkha, that the material world's a miserable place, and then he used the word ashvatam. So that means temporary. So two qualities of the material world: one, that it's miserable, and the other one is temporary. And once again, talking about Buddhism and that too, that they also say the same thing. And that way, in the beginning, I mean, you won't find any difference between Vedic philosophy, Vaishnava philosophy, and Buddhist philosophy up to that point. We both say the same things. But after that is where the differences are, that it's not just the negative thing that, okay, the material world's miserable, it's temporary. Yep, we can all see that. But then the positive thing is that there is an eternal spiritual world. So that the other philosophies don't have any knowledge about that. They don't have any knowledge about the positive alternative, that there is an eternal spiritual world, Satchidananda Vigraha. So they don't have any knowledge about that. Those parts of the philosophy is the same in everywhere, whether it's the Mayavadis or the Buddhists or the ISKCON or whatever. That part's the same. That this Maya realm is temporary and miserable and everything. So, but we have this positive understanding that we want to leave this and go to the eternal spiritual realm. So that's the main fault, dosha. The main fault is that these miseries are there. So what's the knowledge then? Dukkha dosa anudarshanam. Anudarshanam. So darshanam means seeing. We have to see that. Do we see that the material world is a nice place? Or do we see the material world as a miserable place, horrible place? You know, if we see that the material world, if you think that it can be a nice place, it can be a happy place, then that is called avidya. That's called ignorance. If we see it as a miserable place, then that's vidya. That's knowledge. You understand that? However, if someone's Krishna conscious, then the material world becomes a happy place. And that's because it doesn't mean that there's no more birth and old age, disease, death, that's still there. But in all of these situations, the pure devotee only perceives Krishna. So he sees birth as Krishna, disease as Krishna, old age as Krishna, and death as Krishna. Like one time in Second World War, the sirens were going off in Calcutta. Prabhupada was eating on the roof of his house. His wife said, "Come, let's go to the bunker." And Prabhupada was eating prasadam. So he said, "No, I'm honoring Krishna prasadam. This is service." And he said, "If the bomb comes on my head, I will see that bomb is Krishna." So, you know, in that way, that for a devotee, a pure devotee, that he's happy in any situation. It's said the devotee is happy in heaven or in hell or in Vaikuntha. It doesn't matter where the devotee is, because wherever a devotee is thinking of
Krishna.
Is thinking of Krishna. If a devotee would be in heaven, why would he be thinking about Krishna? He wouldn't be thinking about the apsaras and the beautiful women and Somaras and all the things. He's thinking about Krishna. If a devotee is in Narakaloka, in hell, he'd be thinking about Krishna. So sometimes actually Narada Muni goes to the Narakalokas also to preach Krishna consciousness. So the main thing is not where we are, but where our consciousness is. However, having said that the material is not the real home of the soul. This is a place for punishment for souls that have rebelled against Krishna. Our real home is in the spiritual world with Krishna. So naturally, we should have a desire to go back to Krishna. That's our real home. So, although it can be happy for a devotee, which is called Purnam Vishvam Purna Sukhayate. There's one verse that Vishvam means this material world, the universe. Purna means full. Sukhayate means happiness. So it said for a devotee who has achieved the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, this material world becomes Vishvam Purna Sukhayate, full of happiness. So that's for the pure devotee. But the like I said, the nature of the material world is that it's a temporary place, it's a miserable place. Krishna himself says that. Krishna himself wants us to become a devotee and go back to Godhead. Of course, when we become a devotee, then you don't feel any misery anymore. You feel happiness all the time. One time a disciple said to Prabhupada that such and such devotee, he is morose. Morose means like sad or depressed. And Prabhupada said, he is not a devotee. Prabhupada said a devotee means happy. Devotee means happy. Devotee means blissful. 18th chapter, text 55. No, 54. Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma. Once you're spiritually realized, self-realized, Prashanatma. You become, Atma means soul, Prashana means joyful. You become joyful. Because how is it even in a material body that devotee become joyful? Yes, because we don't have false ego. We know I'm not the body, I'm a spirit soul. Okay, I'm a spirit soul. The spirit soul is eternal. The spirit soul doesn't take birth. The spirit soul doesn't grow old. The spirit soul doesn't get sick. The spirit soul doesn't die. So once you realize that, Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma, naturally you become happy. So you're not falsely identifying with all these things. But we should perceive the evil or the fault of this. It means it's a very incompatible situation for the soul to be in the material world. It's incompatible. It's like being in the material world is like a fish being taken out of the water. Well, if you take a fish out of the water, will it be happy if you give it the latest home stereo system and bed and microwave and DVD player and everything? No, it won't. It's only happy in the water. So that's our natural position like that. And but here Prabhupada takes it to another level than what the Bhagavad Gita does, and saying that there is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. So the Bhagavad Gita is saying you should see that birth, death, old age, and disease is miserable. You should see that. That's knowledge. And there it's called, and Prabhupada mentions here, a repeated birth and death. Why does it say repeated birth and death? It doesn't just say birth and death, but this is samsara. Samsara means it's a cycle. You take birth, you grow old, you get sick, you die. And then what happens after that? Again, you take birth. And again, you grow old. Again, you get sick. Then again, and again, again, again. So it's repeated. So we have to see that there's this vicious cycle of repeated birth and death. And it's like, the mouse on the wheel, right? You just go round and round and round and round and round and round. What's the point of that? Again and again and again. And but here Prabhupada takes it another level. Okay, you're seeing that these things are miserable in the material world. However, don't try to get rid of the miseries. And the sense that, okay, let's try to stop birth happening, because they have that, right? It's called contraceptives. Isn't it what do they call it? Family planning, contraceptives, so many things, abortions. That's trying to stop birth or stopping old age, right? You put this cream to stop the wrinkles coming, right? Put this cream and makeup to cover over things. You get plastic surgery, right? When the part's not very good looking, you put some plastic, on it like that. Put the new teeth, right? The teeth fall out, you put new teeth in, false teeth. I remember even from when I was very young, I don't know how it happened, but I remember my mother, even since very young age, always had fully false teeth. All her teeth were all false. She must have had them removed when she was very young, because from my very young age, she already didn't have her own teeth. So that's what we try to do. We try to replace the broken parts. The old age comes, we try to stop that one. And then the disease, you try to, like now, the whole world is trying to get rid of COVID. But like here it's saying there's no use in making plans to get rid of it. Why is there no use? Because that's the fundamental nature of the material world, that you can't separate disease from the material world. Material world equals disease. Material world equals old age. Material world equals death. I mean, like Hiranyakashipu, right? He went to Lord Brahma. He did some austerities. Lord Brahma was pleased. He said, "What do you want?" Hiranyakashipu said, "I don't want to die. Make me immortal." Brahma said, "Sorry, mate, I can't give you that because even I have to die. So how can I give you deathlessness? Even I have to die. I'm not immortal." So he thought he was very clever. So he said, "Okay, I don't want to die in the morning or in the night." And he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I don't want to die from any weapon, from any demigod, whatever." So he thought he had it all covered. But then ultimately Nrsingadev ripped him to pieces and he died. You know, so you can't stop death. It's not possible. You can't stop old age. You can't stop disease. Even, I don't agree that it'll happen, but even if you could remove all traces of COVID from the world, viruses, remove all viruses, then some other disease would come. Some other disease would come. I mean, you might say, "Oh, we've removed," what have we removed? Say, what used to be there? What's a disease that used to be very common, say 100 years ago, and we don't have that? Polio or something? Or
Malaria, polio.
okay, we have got rid of polio, but what does that mean? No more disease? No, we have COVID now. So we've still got disease. And even if we get rid of that, by vaccine or whatever, then there'll be another thing that'll be there. So what's the point in I'm putting 100% of my energy into trying to get rid of this disease? Isn't it? Everyone's full attention is trying to get rid of COVID or whatever like that. And are we being successful? No, we're failing miserably. We're still suffering. I mean, have the hospitals become empty now that we've created vaccines and so? The hospitals are still full. Still full. So what's the solution then? If we're not going to make a plan to get rid of the misery, then what should we do? The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain his spiritual identity. So that's where we should make plans. We should be making plans and putting our energy into getting back our spiritual identity. Because as soon as you get your spiritual identity back, like, for example, famous verse, 4th chapter, text 7 in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma Kama Chameda Vyami Vamyo Vedi Tatvata Tyaktvadiham Puna Janma Naiti Mamati Sojana, saying, Krishna says, one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon quitting this material body, take another body, but attains my eternal abode. So basically, you're out of here. You're out of here, you go back to the spiritual world, and he says you don't come back. Tyaktva deha. Tyaktva deha means you're dead, mate. Tyaktva means you giving up. The deha means the body. Deha is the body. Tyaktva means give it up. So basically when you're dead, but then naiti. Naiti means not another one. See, that means no more repeated birth and death, right? So the repeat doesn't happen. So death will happen. You can't stop that. Once you're born, you have to die. But where you break the cycle of birth and death is at the death. So between the this death and the next birth, you break it there. How do you break it? If you understand, that verse is saying, if you understand that Krishna's appearance, his janma, and his karma, means his activities, are transcendental divyam, then if you are just by understanding that, then you do not take another material body after this one dies. So see, that's what we should make plans for that. So how do you make plans for that? Well, read about Krishna's appearance, read about Krishna's activities. That's what my wife and I are doing every night at the moment, as much as nearly every night, not every night, but we try to, is read Krishna book, because it's full of Krishna's appearance and his activities. It's 90 chapters. And all 90 chapters, what are they about? Krishna's appearance in the first few chapters, and then all the rest of it's about his activities. And by reading it, we can understand that his birth is not an ordinary birth. His activities are not ordinary activities. Very soon on the weekend coming up is Govardhan Puja. Krishna lifted a mountain. You know, so how many 7-year-olds do you know that lift mountains on one finger? You know, that he did that when he was 7. So it's transcendental. He's not ordinary. Just a few days ago we celebrated Krishna's Rasa Leela pastime. So Krishna expanded himself to be with all the gopis at the same time. So there was millions of Krishnas, you know, dancing, and each gopi thought that Krishna was only with her to make them feel special. He put them under Maya, so they couldn't see all the other Krishnas like that. So, you know, he's transcendental. So this is where we should be making plans. This is where we should put our energy in, like that, not trying to stop the miseries of this material world. If you do that, if you make a plan to reconnect with Krishna, automatically the miseries stop. So it's not saying that we don't want to get free from the miseries. It's saying the best way to get free from the miseries, you focus on your relationship with Krishna, and automatically Krishna will solve your miseries for you. And he can do that because he put the miseries on us and he can take it off. You know, so he's in control, right? This is what we started off, Ishavasya Midam Sarvam, that he's the supreme controller, right? The beginning of Isopanisad. He is the supreme controller. Everything's under his control. So the miseries are under his control. If he's pleased by our bhakti, he can take the miseries off us in 2 seconds. You know, not even less than 2 seconds. He can take it off like that. So anyway, I'm getting carried away again. We've reached our time. I haven't let you guys say much. Do you want to say something? Anything comes to mind? If you have any questions or any realizations or something like that.
I think the last part you, I mean, you know, you Krishna, I mean, knowledge and everything will be perfect. That's what he said. So you don't need to worry about the material world, you know, that's, and the other thing is that nowadays what we are more focusing on science, which is the material knowledge. The complete knowledge is spiritual and material. I mean, you have to have both the knowledge.
Both, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, material knowledge is necessary to maintain the body, or I guess that's what it is, isn't it? It's just to keep the body and then use your, you know, body for spiritual.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but you've already said it. But then, okay, you maintain the material body, but it should be for Krishna's service. Otherwise, if you're maintaining the body for your sense gratification, then that's avidya. You know, that's ignorance. You know, that's ignorance. You know, like we read that. You know, the previous one. One should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interests of self-realization. One should not accept more than he requires for the maintenance of the body. So if you're just expert, you know, with arranging all the material things for your enjoyment, but that's ignorance. That's ignorant. But if you just take enough to maintain your body and you're using the body in Krishna's service, that's knowledge. That's, you know, good use of, you know, your material knowledge. But see, if you become too expert just on the materialistic side of things, you're actually going backwards. You know, it means, you know, you completely misused your human life just for like animal things. You know, you've just fine-tuned eating perfectly. Eating in a restaurant in a skyscraper, you know, like that. You've fine-tuned your sex life, you know, and lots of sex enjoyment, and you've fine-tuned your sleeping. You got a nice, you know, $5,000 soft bed, you know, you've fine-tuned your sleeping, and you're fine-tuned your defending by having, you know, bombs and nuclear weapons and everything. So, but you're just going to get more engrossed in ignorance, and you're going to take birth as some lower species of life. And, you know, so see, material knowledge without the spiritual is ignorance. But material knowledge used in Krishna's service is spiritual. Then it's not material knowledge anymore. Like I say, everything comes from Krishna. So if you use matter for Krishna, it's not matter anymore. It becomes spiritual. And the example, you put an iron rod in the fire. You put the iron rod in the fire, keep it there. And what does it become? Is it still iron? No, it becomes fire. Because you can go and touch something to it, it's going to burn it. It's going to burn it. It's going to become fire. So matter used in the service of Krishna becomes again spirit. But matter used for our sense gratification is still matter, and which is Maya, which is illusory, and which leads to this thing, suffering, which leads to another birth and another disease and another death and like that. So see, material knowledge on its own is very destructive for us. It's our enemy. But that material knowledge used in Krishna's service, then it becomes our friend. Anything you use in Krishna's service becomes our friend. But anything used for our own enjoyment becomes our enemy. It becomes our enemy.
So in daily life, if we say, I mean, if you want to look at any activity you are doing, you should actually be looking at whether actually it's just material engagement, or is there some, you should limit your material engagement till it's necessary. And if you're doing more than that, then you need to stop there, isn't it? You need to
Well, that was the previous one, right? That you only take enough to keep the body and soul together for maintenance of the body. Yeah, because why that's there, if you endeavor more than that, more than what you need, that means you're going to not have time for your spiritual development. And remember, that's what human life's for your spiritual advancement, spiritual inquiry. I mean, why are there only 3 people here in the class? Because everyone else is too busy with all the bodily things. I've got no time for soul searching because I have to make money, so much money. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to look at the latest news about COVID. How many new people have got COVID today, in New Zealand? We're too absorbed in material things, bodily things, and therefore you got no time for the spiritual life. But what we don't realize is that there will be a certain point where we come before Yama, and Yama's going to say, so why didn't you get your spiritual life together? I gave you a human body. Why you didn't get it together? And you can't say then, well, I was just too busy dealing with COVID. He's going to say that's no excuse, Then your job was to, become Krishna conscious. So, that's serious business, but people don't realize that, So the thing is, we have to. It's said that human life is compared to a razor's edge. Narendra will know this. When you're shaving, you have to really concentrate, isn't it? Because if you don't, you're going to cut yourself, and we've all done that. As soon as your mind goes somewhere else, you cut yourself. So you have to concentrate. So it means your human life, you have to use it very carefully, like you use the razor very carefully. Because the razor is very good. You can have a nice clean shave, but you can cut yourself to pieces too. So, so life is like that. If human life, we can be very good, go back to Godhead, but if we use it wrong way, and then we can really destroy our future, really big time. So our dealing with the material world should just be as much as necessary, but maximum we should be trying to advance our spiritual life. Lots of time for chanting, lots of time for reading, lots of time for the satsanga, sadhusanga, like that. Worshipping the Lord, doing some puja, some arati, these kind of things. More time for that. And that's only going to work if you keep all the bodily stuff simple. I mean, that's why, why am I living in the country? Why am I off the grid and all this? To try to simplify my life so I have more time. That's why I can just talk for ages because I don't have any other things I have to do. If I don't feel like, working, otherwise I don't have to, because I've just simplified my life so much. I can basically talk all day long and nothing can get in the way of that, I don't have any other commitments or like that. So
yeah, you don't have any other stimuli, unnecessary material stimuli to distract your mind to something else. Mind always, I mean, it's not without any thought, isn't it? If you
yeah.
don't think about, say, Krishna, you will be thinking about something else, which is material, probably. You know, the and somebody was telling me you get actually 60,000 thoughts in a day or something like that. I mean, just imagine
Yeah.
if you're not thinking about something, you will be thinking what you're looking at. And now, for you, what you have done is you have actually removed the unnecessary materialistic stimuli,
Yeah.
which generate thought. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
solitary.
probably 50,000 then.
Yeah, I mean, still there, but it's more controlled.
Yeah.
But if you're in a
Yeah.
city like Sydney or somewhere, you even if you look outside, I mean, you will get so many things going
Yeah.
around, and
Yeah.
then just distracts you. I mean,
Yeah.
just takes you into the material world, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it means we what we're trying to do is our interaction with the material world is in a controlled way. We try to use matter in Krishna's service, not the matter is using us in Maya's service. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, the other thing I was thinking is that everything starts from a thought. Your material action, everything starting for a thought.
Yeah.
Now, you are so aware, the soul is so aware of the mind that he can see, as the mind, that I'm thinking about this, I'm getting angry. If you have that kind of mindfulness, then you can stop everything, because every action you take, everything you do starts with a thought. If you're mindful, if you're aware of your thoughts and your emotions, what's happening, you can control it. And that's what I think japa does. It just makes
Yeah.
you aware of
Yeah.
what you're thinking, and you're aware of that. The soul is aware of the thought, and if you
Yes.
stop that thought, if it's a wrong thought or a materialistic thought, you can stop it there. You can drop that thought.
Yeah.
Nothing happens. So with that awareness, I think it's good. I mean, that's japa does that. I mean, that's
Yes.
training the brain,
Yeah.
basically, mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I learned from basically japa. I mean, it's a meditation,
Yeah.
basically.
That's the idea, is we are bringing the mind from all the 60,000
Yeah.
thoughts, we bring it just to one thing, which is just concentrate on Krishna's names, for example, or Krishna's form, like that, Krishna's pastimes. So we just bring the mind in a concentrated way, and that's called samadhi. So that's what we were talking about in the Bhagavad Gita, samadhi in the 6th chapter, which means trance, which means you're just focusing your mind. So even though your body is still doing different things, but your mind is focusing on one thing. Oh, I'm doing gardening for Krishna. I'm doing cooking for Krishna. I'm talking about Krishna. I'm cleaning Krishna's house. So although it seems like still there's a lot of different things going on, but the central point for the mind is the same. Oh, I'm going to talk with Krishna's devotees. Oh, there's Krishna's devotee, like that. So in that way, the mind becomes very peaceful and very equipoised, very peaceful. And then that's how it is that the devotee becomes peaceful, because the mind is always connecting everything with Krishna that happens. But that takes education, that takes training and education and practice. It's not going to happen all of a sudden. That's why even in the Ashtanga Yoga system, samadhi is the last stage, not the first. You don't start with samadhi, you finish with samadhi. You start with yama, niyama, and then asana, pranayama. So it means all the do's and don'ts, all the regulations, then the exercises, breathing. That's just talking about the Ashtanga Yoga system. But the same thing with us. We have our rules and regulations. The do is chant 16 rounds. Our don't, we have 4 don'ts. No meat, no intoxication, the sex, gambling. So the same principles. And we also have our asanas. We sit down while we're chanting or whatever like that, and then dhyana, we're meditating on the japa, on the holy name, like that. So same basic principles like that. And final point is you concentrate your mind on Krishna, and it never leaves Krishna, and you're always thinking about Krishna. And that's why ISKCON, right? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. You're always Krishna conscious. Doesn't matter. You're working in the factory, you're Krishna conscious. In the office, you're looking after a family, you're Krishna conscious. You're all by yourself, you're Krishna conscious. Whatever you're doing, when you get up, when you go to bed, you're Krishna conscious. So that's the final stage, that we're always thinking about Krishna. And then at that point, the mind becomes completely peaceful and we become completely happy. When the mind is just scattered over everything, then always anxiety, so many anxieties and all these kind of things like that. But this is the practice. And as we go further, like, Narendra, you were saying that you feel that when you do japa, it helps you to calm your mind from all the thoughts, to see that. So, we notice good results. So that encourages us to go further. We're getting good results.
Thank you very much.
Time's up.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Pleasure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.